Hello, everyone. How you doing? You're very welcome to this week's Last Word in Formula One with myself, Aidan Raftery, and of course, as always, to talk about all things Formula One, we have the one and only Michael O'Grady. Hello, Michael. How are you? Are you well?
I am not too bad at all. We've had an extensive week this week. It's been very, very busy with the Irish Wheelie Bin Championship. It's going very good now at the minute. Paul Egan is a good lead
Movie
though.
premieres and all that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh yeah, Brad Pitt's keen to make a film on Wexford Morris Minor Racing. So we'll see what
Yeah.
goes on with that one.
Well, sure, that'll be very. We'll have to cover that for Rosfm. So, yeah,
Oh, it's
so,
going to be serious.
oh, I'll tell you, the Sky Sports will be on that one. But
I
so
am
we're
telling
starting
you.
off by looking back at the Qatar Grand Prix, and then we'll be looking ahead to the Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi, which is the last one of the season, and it's getting tense now. We'll get to that towards the end, but it's getting tense now. Qatar, very good race weekend for some. Not a great race weekend for others. We know there was a sprint, and we only had one practice round. That was it. That's all we got, which isn't great, really, for the drivers, I suppose, to a certain extent. You know yourself. But it's this final appearance of the year. I'm not the I'm not the greatest fan of sprint, but anyway, so everybody was out. George Russell, Max Verstappen have to be absolutely flying around on the track before, of course, what happened? Of course, the two McLarens get out on the track. That was kind of a bit of end of game, really, because a lot of them were going out bits and pieces, doing this, doing that, doing the other. McLaren comes out gone. We're getting used to it at this stage, as to say, just gone. I don't know where they're going, but it is what it is. The Kick Saubers did very well. Nico Hulkenberg, he set a lot of purple sectors for quite some time. It was quite good. But the last 10 minutes, everybody went out and made the switch to soft tires because, of course, they needed to see what was happening with the soft tires, which weren't very popular during the weekend, I have to admit. And the McLaren kind of duo started struggling on the hard, but the second it went to the soft, yeah, goodbye and talk to you later. So it was Oscar Piastri first, the Norris second, Alonso third, Sainz fourth, Hajar fifth. It is only practice. But Oscar Piastri loves this track, I have to admit. Sprint qualifying one. Yeah, Max Verstappen kind of made his intentions known from the second he got off that track, and he was the first one to hit the track. He was just pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And yes, it was the McLaren duo were doing in the lead the whole time. But my God, I tell you one thing for free: Max Verstappen ain't giving up. He is so close at this stage. He is not giving up at all. And the funny thing about this track, of course, when you lay down rubber, there's a hell of a lot of track evolution. So, of course, by the end of each qualifying session, the kind of cars are getting faster and faster and faster. Even Alonso got in at one stage and was topping the leaderboard. But, it wasn't for long, as to say. There was a few guys in the drop zone. Stroll was the first one to miss the old cut by 1/10 of a second, would you believe? 1/10 of a second. The one thing knocked out, we lost Stroll, Lawson, Gasly, Colapinto, and Hamilton again knocked out in Q3. I mean, I don't understand that. Again, he's knocked out in Q3. He was 3/10 slower than 16th place. I mean, that was a lot, really, wasn't it? When you think about it, he should be doing an awful lot more. His teammate got through, but he didn't. SQ2 was a bit the same. Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris setting the pace yet again. Track loss for Hajar for track limits. You have to do that 3 times before you start getting, in a lot of trouble. But, in qualifying, it's just time deleted, as I say. Max Verstappen was left complaining about his bouncing aboard the car. Now, we haven't heard that in a while. You remember the old porpoising effect we used to get? Well,
Yep.
yeah, for Max Verstappen, it was actually back again. And he couldn't figure it out. And the team were trying their level best to try and figure it out. It's obviously something to do with the aerodynamics underneath the car, as we know. And exactly what the cause is kind of sometimes can be a bit hazy because the cars do it for no apparent reason. I mean, the Red Bull wasn't set up that way. So it was kind of an interesting one, really, just to see it. Knocked out Hajar Behrman, Bortoleto, Hulkenberg, and Esteban Ocon. Goodbye and talk to you later. In SQ3, well, the drivers kind of were required to use the soft tyre. That didn't really prove to be the best tyre during the weekend, I have to admit. McLaren did seem to make a noticeable leap forward. They were fast before. My God, they were fast in SQ3, I can tell you. They were just something else, out on their own completely. But kind of haven't challenged them so many times, Max Verstappen. He just wasn't able to keep up with them. He ran wide on turn 4 in his first attempt and complained about the bouncing again over the radio. No representative time on board, really. He had to use his last effort in order to get a time on board, which isn't very good when you think about it. And he ended actually up behind his teammate. Yes, Yuki Tsunoda got into the top 5. I think everybody nearly died of a heart attack with that one. But even though the McLarens made a massive step forwards, George Russell managed to split the two of them in the Mercedes. So it finished up for qualifying. Piastri, Russell, Norris, Alonso, Tsunoda, Verstappen, Antonelli, Sainz, Charles Leclerc in a lonely 9th, and Alex Albon in 10th in the Williams. Now, this is only a sprint, as they say, and some of the comments I've heard through the days over the radios and stuff, yeah, we won't go there. The sprint itself, lights went out, great launch, charge away from George Russell, who immediately goes across and defends against Norris as they head down into turn 1. Just behind Alonso lost out, I suppose, the most. He was passed by both Red Bulls, just went absolutely around him. It was as simple as that. It was a bit of an anticlimax for him. Well, I put it that way to you. Charles Leclerc, of course, again, opening lap, wide on turn 2, dropped them from 9th to 13th like a stone, landing in a kind of a midfield DRS train. And you know as well as I do, you've seen it yourself. DRS trains, yeah, no one's going to get past that in a hurry. Everyone just gets bogged down, and it didn't look much better for Hamilton, who was lingering down in 18th place and kind of failing to improve from where he was, which was, you don't hear of a Ferrari being in 18th place too often, really, do you? Unless there's been an accident or something. I have to admit, Piastri was absolutely stunning. He just got on that track, ran around the place, not a problem. There's a gap in no time at all back to Russell, and just making sure the DRS can't get in there. Verstappen made a few stabs at Norris, didn't really get anywhere, but he came back over the radio saying, hi, the bounce is still very bad. And he was suffering with that all day Friday. So it was kind of not that much of a surprise, I suppose, to a real kind of sort of thing. You know what I mean? But I mean, Carlos Sainz, I have to admit, was the man that took my eye in sprint qualifying in the race. He did very well and ended up 8th in the Williams, which was not bad for Williams. 8th place, not bad at all for Williams, with his teammate Alex Albon being 10th. So the Williams had a good sprint, had a better race, but we'll come back to that in a second. There was sort of action everywhere, but it ended up, of course, with Oscar Piastri first, George Russell second, and Norris third. That's exactly the way they started. So, I mean, not much of a difference there. Max Verstappen in 4th. It was a little bit behind, in fairness. He was about 3 seconds behind Norris, which you don't expect from Max. Tsunoda in 5th. Antonelli in 6th. So, Mercedes having a good day as well. And then you had Alonso, Sainz, Hajar, and Albon. No Ferrari in the top 10 of the sprint. Well, I suppose, look, it is only the sprint, isn't it? Now, the section I like to call real qualifying. Yes. That's a terrible thing to say, really, isn't it?
Well, not really, because it is the nitty gritty, and I suppose, like we'll be talking about it before the actual race, but it's going to be interesting to see. How I like to compare last season's lap time with this season's qualifying time.
No, you hate doing that. You completely hate doing that. I understand that. Yeah, I understand that. You hate doing that. Absolutely. It's like tires. Like, you hate talking about tires.
I hate them. Yeah.
Absolutely.
No need for them.
Absolutely. No need for them at all. Why do they need tyres? I keep saying, but no one listens as they say, Well,
sure.
real qualifying Q1, even before the light at the end of the pit lane went on. Oh, the stewards were already busy. And the light hadn't even gone on yet because Alex Albon had an unsafe release in the pits. I mean, it was just, you felt watching it as, oh no, it's going to be one of those days again. We're just, how can you actually get an unsafe release? The light hasn't even gone green yet. But anyhow, soft Pirelli tyres, track conditions were beginning to drastically improve. Bit by bit by bit, cars were getting faster and faster and faster. The first benchmark, I have to admit, was lowered down to a 120 by Russell, but it wasn't long before Norris went by and then Piastri went by. Now, it was only 0.08 of a second, which isn't much, but, it means you're not at the front of the grid anymore. Oscar Piastri ahead again. He's been ahead all weekend. Knocked out of that one was Yuki Tsunoda, who you remember did well in sprint, not in actual qualifying. Ocon, Hamilton again knocked out in Q3, and Stroll and Colapinto. Stroll's, well, I suppose none of the rest of them are really a surprise, but Hamilton again knocked out. That was kind of, his teammates not knocked out, but look, we won't go there. Q2, Piastri moved to the top spot again in early on Q2. The man was just unstoppable. He really was. He's something else. He loves this track and he loves this type of track, where it's not really suiting Norris as much, this type of track. So it's kind of a, there was a bit of a frustration starting to kick in, if you get me, So I mean, it's, and Norris was having a lot of pressure in Q2. He had time gone for exceeding the track limits on turn 10, and his best effort was about half a second slower than Piastri. I mean, that's significant, half a second. And Verstappen was also a little even over half a second. That'll tell you what Piastri had definitely had his Weetabix before he went out, because he was just absolutely flying. Absolutely. The brink of elimination. Charles Leclerc, a man who does not want to get eliminated under any circumstances. And he managed to haul himself in his last run up to 9th place, which was nice to see, And Isaac Hadjar as well survived by, hang on, I have it written down, 0.003 of a second. Oh my God, I just hope the stopwatch was very, very good. Survived. Knocked out Nico Hülkenberg, Liam Lawson, Ollie Behrman, Bortoletto and Albon. Again, no great surprises there, who was knocked out. Now, Q3. Norris dealt the first decisive blow. He went out and absolutely belted around the track, I have to admit. 10 out of 10, Charles Leclerc, on the other hand, suffered a big spin. Just couldn't keep the car on the road at high speed. Nice big spin around before hitting back to the pit lane. And the red flag was deployed for a rather unusual incident involving Sainz. He actually left the garage with a floor sticker still attached to the tyre. And of course, not his fault, and he pulls out and his kind of, came off on the track. He didn't even know it was on the tyre, because he's only doing a warm-up. Mind you, could have been a bit dodgy now if he had been going at high speed. But anyway, that's what it was. So somebody had to go out and collect the debris, get it off the track. And it was under investigation with the stewards. They didn't really do anything about it. It was kind of, just one of those things, lads, don't do it again, please, But it ended up Oscar Piastri, absolutely, shockingly fast, number one, Norris second. Max Verstappen had hauled himself now up to number 2, and I didn't hear any complaints about porpoising. So obviously, they've managed to get to the bottom of it, which is always good, Then you had Russell Antonelli, which was great, 4th and 5th for Mercedes. You can't argue with that. Hadjar 6th, Sainz 9th, 10th was Alonso, 8th was Alonso, 9th was Gasly, and 10th was Leclerc after his big spin. He didn't really get many places. Key quote, because I thought it was interesting when I heard it, we left it pretty much the same, with some minor tweaks here and there, talking about the car. And I liked the way he said, everything felt great all weekend. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And he's right too. He's right too. Yeah. You don't hear that often these days. Yeah, it's always a tweak, isn't it? It's always, can we get a bit more here? Not broke, lads, don't fix it. Don't fix it. The race itself, Piastri on pole, McLaren lock out the first grid. Max just behind, and Max needs to finish ahead of Norris if he wants to stay in the World Championship. If he wants to stay in the sniff of that pole or that World Championship, he had to stay ahead of Norris. And he's behind him. And of course, the spanner in the works was beside him, which was George Russell. Great driver. Absolutely. But I have all the time for him, 25 lap limit on the tyres. That was kind of a bit off. You can't run like George Russell runs his tyres long. Can't do that because you have to come in after 25 laps. And in after 25 laps was a little bit on the decisive side. We'll come back to that, So, I mean, that pushes everyone to 2-stop. If you want to do a 1-stop, tough, you can't do it, which is a pity. You could do 3. No one's mad enough to do 3 stops. Well, Max Verstappen did once, but, so, I mean, you can't dictate the tyres as much, pit stop strategies are kind of going out the window a bit. Yeah, and it was restricting the race, I have to admit. Piastri was just smiles on his face, high grip track. He's happy. If Lando Norris wins or won, he was champion of the world. Only thing is he didn't win at the start.
So I suppose that really means it comes down to the last race then.
Oh, absolutely it does. And it's getting closer. At the start, Max swept past Lando like he was stopped. I mean, right into the first corner to take second place. Candy from a baby. Absolutely candy from a baby. It just, I know he was on a dirty side of the track. It shouldn't make that much of a difference, but it actually did because Russell and Hadjar also lost places on the dirty side of the track. Hamilton actually made hay while the sun shines on the soft tyre up to 14. But, I mean, the soft tyre wasn't really the best tyre. It just went off very quickly, But Lawson, he tried to get past Liam Lawson. Well, Liam Lawson just had to measure him at the early stage. Was no way he was getting past him. It really wasn't. And it was kind of perfect for Piastri because, he's in the lead. Verstappen is behind him, not Lando, because Lando obviously is the man who is going to be world champion if he wins. So he didn't want him ahead of him, and he's got Verstappen between the two of them. Now, Verstappen is a threat. There's no arguing. But, if you're going to have, who you don't want second is the guy who could possibly win. So, ideal situation for him. And he was driving so well. It just gone, just didn't put a foot wrong all weekend. He was just absolutely amazing, I have to admit. Really, it was perfect for him, and you had a lot of issues on the soft tyre, I have to admit. Max was getting a bad shift from left to right in the corners. That's tyre wear. Tyre wear wasn't working great. But as early as lap 6, he dropped back to about 2.5 seconds behind Piastri, which was a lot. And then he just started pumping in faster laps the whole time, And then, of course, you had lap 7, you had Gasly and Hulkenberg off the track battling over 9th place. Then the safety car came out. That's when the whole race changed. I mean, whole race changed because you're lap 7. What are you going to do? It's exactly, if you dissect the race, you're getting about 50 laps, 49 to 50 laps. So now you can go in and pit now and then pit in 25 laps time, and you're laughing. So everybody did that. Everybody bar McLaren and Esteban Ocon. But we did the next lap. Esteban Ocon in third at that stage, and he pitted and came out last because, he should have pitted early. But, it's kind of, why did McLaren not pit? Because it's a safety car. Everybody behind him can catch up. So now Max Verstappen, yeah, he's in third, but he's right behind Norris again. Now he's right on his tailpipe with brand new tyres. Nice, clean, beautiful, total disaster. Somebody in McLaren went gulp. It's all I'll say to you. Someone in McLaren definitely got a slap behind the head, I'd say, for it. They really had to. It was kind of, why didn't you come in? People were double stacking cars. Didn't matter. Get them in, get them out. They're on nice new tyres now, So, I mean, you had Verstappen on the back axle in McLaren. Should have double stacked him, as I said. But, tyre flexibility, McLaren radioed that they wanted to keep the tyre flexibility and not pit. So they did have sort of, some things they could do, but Not an awful lot. And of course, they're going to have to pit now on lap 25, and no one else needs to do it for 7 laps later. On the radio, McLaren was told Max was told McLaren will have to pit. Simple as that by lap 25. And Red Bull have said to him, you've had your first stint. We want faster 2 stints than they have. And that's all we need, and there was no undercut. It was a half disaster for them. It really was, because on the restart lap 11, McLaren off, Carlos Sainz in fourth place, which is but Max was like hunting the whole time. He could nearly sniff blood. But I put it that way to you. You could see it in him. He knew he was going. He didn't have to fight too hard right now. He would get there. Yeah, he would get there, and he knew they'd have to go in, and he knew they'd have to do this, and they'd have to do that. And what I was laughing at that stage, actually, is, Esteban Ocon didn't go into pits immediately. He went the next lap and ended up last because everyone else had pitted and sodded off. And then he didn't. Well, he was speeding in the pit lane then, so he got a 5-second penalty, which he actually didn't even serve correctly. Oh, God, It was a disaster. It really was. Someone was on a bad day, bad day, I have to admit, it really was. But on the start, Piastri off like a rocket. The 2 McLarens went off like a rocket. Max was hard-pressed to stay up with them. But the difference they'd have to make for 2 stops compared to Max Verstappen doing 1 stop, that's when it all happened. Lap 33, the 2 lads came in, total mayhem. You know what I mean? It was just crazy when all the cars came in on lap 33, car after car after car after car after car, and back out again. The McLarens, ferocious pace, I should say. Lap 21, Piastri was 3.5 seconds faster than ahead of Norris. I mean, that was massively impressive in itself, Norris came into the pits. He was given out, changed the downforce on his wing, claiming he was struggling slightly. Piastri went on lap 24. Norris went in on lap 25. They came out ahead of Alonso, which was crucial. But Norris kind of needed to worry about getting ahead of him too, but he actually managed to do it with the 1 extra lap. Very good work by McLaren, I have to admit. But Norris pulled a bad shudder around turn 37 and lost a second. And, you thought, oh, how's he doing now? But then Piastri pulled it up a few laps later. What was interesting is Piastri was asking for the soft tyre for the last stint. They didn't give it to him. They gave him the hard tyre. Exactly why, I don't know. He was asking for the soft tyre because, let's face it, he's faster than anyone else. He's gone off in the distance. So, I mean, that's the interesting thing, isn't it, really? And at the second pit stop, where's Norris going to come out? Behind Max Verstappen. Job done. Max Verstappen is there. He just needed somebody to go behind him. It's as simple as that. And then suddenly Norris fell all the way back to 5th behind Antonelli when he came out from the pits. Red Bull, I mean, Max pits like everybody else on lap 33 and out on conservative hard tyres, some medium at the end, Max, he was told they were the most robust tyres. Max just went out and just hunted. That was as simple as that. Max went out and was Max Verstappen. It was as simple as that. He went out quicker. He went out. He pushed. He kept going forwards the whole time. And when the 2 guys pitted and came back out, they had to get past a few cars and then after Max. Were they closing on Max? Yes, they were closing on Max. Did they catch Max? No, they didn't catch Max. He just kept going, pumping in the time. Piastri was half a second a lap faster than him, but Max was so far ahead with 1 pit stop compared to their 2. It just wasn't going to happen. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't going to happen. I mean, when you think about Max Verstappen, he was 104 points behind Piastri not that long ago, and now he's ahead of him. And it's kind of, actually, there was a bit of a comment from Max Verstappen over the weekend early on. He, comment from he was there saying if he had a McLaren, he'd be world champion 3 or 4 races by now. I wouldn't say it like that, really, but just Max and Red Bull, what a combination. I mean, mind blown completely the way these guys come up with these things and go, fire now, pit, get it back out, drive this way, and he does it. He just goes out and does it. Mercedes, Antonelli's controversial Norris pass, there was one. He was oversteering and sliding coming out. You know, someone said it was an honest moment. I don't think so. Norris needed to get ahead of Antonelli to get more points for the championship. Now, Antonelli's in a Mercedes, and funny enough, Norris is in a Mercedes-powered car. I don't think it was a tactical game by McLaren. I actually think it was a tactical game by Mercedes, because Mercedes don't want a Honda car winning the world champion or being world champion. And that's what Max Verstappen has, a Honda powered car. They want to see McLaren because it's a Mercedes powered car. That's my hunch. You can get on to me if you think I'm wrong. But that's my hunch. But it was a bit, it brought me back to 2008 with kind of Hamilton's first world championship, where he went past, you know, he overtook a car that suddenly had a fault, and then suddenly when he passed it, all was okay. It was obvious there was something going on there. It was an obvious cheat, but look, you know, no one got caught for it. You know what I mean? So, I mean, you know, the race ended up, it was a good race, but they just couldn't catch Max Verstappen. He just got in there and did what he had to do. Piastri in second. Carlos Sainz got him, hauled himself up the third. Couldn't believe it. What a drive from the Williams driver. On the podium, he was over the moon. Lando Norris in fourth, Antonelli, Russell fifth and sixth, Alonso seventh, Leclerc eighth, Lawson ninth, and Tsunoda 10th. Just on the drivers in general, Stroll got in a bit of arguments, but nothing really happened. Safety car speeding, things like that noted. Hamilton, total disaster for him. Where did he finish, actually? 12th. Very underwhelming, I have to admit, bar at the start where he got past a few guys in the dirty side. It was kind of, it was kind of one of those days. Do you know what I mean? Ferrari just, they're nowhere at the minute. I don't know what's up with them, Aidan. They're absolutely nowhere, I have to admit. Behrman headed out at one stage. You know, he stops just as he's released, trying to head out with only 3 tires. That was kind of interesting in the race, you know. Oh, and of course he thumps the steering wheel because, you know, he's not happy. 3 tires. What can you do? You know. So, as I was saying to you, the World Championship's getting very exciting because Lando Norris is still first at 408 points. Max Verstappen's now 396 points. Calculating in my head, that's 12 points. That's 12 points in the difference. If Lando Norris decides, Max Verstappen wins and Lando Norris decides I'm not finishing second or third, this could be dodgy. Oscar Piastri, as I said, Max was 120-something points behind him. He's now 4 points ahead of him. You know, Oscar Piastri in third at 392, which is absolutely amazing. Now, the other thing on the whole World Championship, which is interesting, is we have Norris, Verstappen, Piastri, Russell, Leclerc, and Hamilton. What's really interesting is Hamilton is 152 points, a long way off Leclerc. Antonelli has gone up to 150 points. He could easily get taken by Antonelli in the next race if he don't watch what he's doing. Of course, the upshot of that on the constructors, well, as we know, McLaren are first. They're at 800 points now. 800 points. Mercedes second. Red Bull third, Ferrari fourth. I mean, last 2 years they've been battling for second. They didn't get it, but they were battling for it. Now, 382 points compared to Red Bull at 426. Ferrari going to be fourth this year. There's a lot of people kind of giving out about that, if you got me, you know. Now, just a quote before we move on. The Abu Dhabi do. Last night I was up till 6 a.m. I couldn't sleep and I was just thinking, okay, what can I do to improve the car? What can I do to serve my engineers better? What other changes can be made? This is supposedly Lewis Hamilton. Supposedly Lewis Hamilton. I've never heard him being like that at all. The pain I feel for all in the garage, but everyone back at the factory who deserve good results. But it's not for the lack of trying. Won't give up. We'll keep pushing even through these difficult days. I have faith. Difficult days is kind of an understatement, really, isn't it? I mean, he's done abysmally the last couple of races. And I mean, he can't say he's blaming the car, but he said 4 or 5 races ago he had the car.
Well, if you're blaming the car, Michael, if you're blaming the car, you're indirectly blaming the engineers as well, because they're responsible.
Correct, theoretically. Yeah, theoretically, yes, you're indirectly blaming the engineers too. Now, the car isn't as good as it should be,
Without naming the driver,
but when
without
your
naming the
teammate,
engineers, of course.
yeah, but when your teammate is walking ahead of you the whole time, getting into Q1, and you can't get out of Q3,
That's more down to the driving then, isn't it, rather than the
that's
car?
down to the driving at that stage, and finishing so badly back in 2 races in a row compared to Charles Leclerc. It's kind of, yeah, really, okay, the car is not maybe as good as you think it is. Your teammate's doing better than you, and he's not a world champion. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of, should have kept
Doesn't say
Carlos
much,
Sainz in
but
my opinion, but
there you go.
I won't say that. I'm not going to say that out too loud. I won't say that out too loud. How long
So
have we got left?
that brings us on to, we have 9 minutes left. So that brings us on
Tons of
to
time.
the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and of course,
Abu Dhabi too. Yeah, no sprint. No sprint. Hooray! No sprint. We get a nice relaxing weekend. We practice 1, practice 2, practice 3. That's the 5th and 6th of December. We've qualifying and race. This is the last race of the season. This could come down if Lando Norris don't get it. If Lando Norris has the catastrophe he's had the last race, we could easily see Max Verstappen being world champion here. And Max has his good head on. He has his racing head on this week and last week. And for the last while, actually, he's had his good head on. Now, it's a circuit, 5.28 kilometers, 58 laps in total, which, of course, brings us just over about 305, 306 on distance, kilometers, or kilometers it would be. It is, it's kilometers. That's what it got. The fastest lap time, Kevin Magnussen last year. 1:25.637. Kevin Magnussen, good man, 10 out of 10. Like, you don't hear him out there too often doing fastest lap times. That's going to be beaten this year. I'd say your 1:25.6 will be right down to a low 1:25s. This is the sort of thing Aidan likes to hear. I think low 20. That could be beaten by 3 or 4 tenths of a second, I would dare say, easy peasy. Well, most wins here is Lewis Hamilton. He's had 5 wins here. The most wins for constructors is Red Bull. Now, last year, we had Lando Norris in pole position in the McLaren Mercedes. He went on to win the race. It was Lando Norris, Carlos Sainz in second, and Charles Leclerc in third. Now, I don't think Charles is going to be third this time, personally, because the car is just it's just not going. It just isn't. It's just not going well. But it being Abu Dhabi, would you care to take a stab at the chances of rain?
I would say
0%.
0%.
0%. Nil
But
0%.
the odd chance of a stray camel coming on the
Actually, you're going to laugh at this. The biggest problem with that place isn't rain, it's sand. Because if the wind gets up, it goes across the circuit and the lads get issues. Now, it's not as bad as rain. We love the rain.
If it gets into the engine, that's where yeah. Hence the performance, hence the timing, and
I think, yeah.
I've been listening to you too much, haven't I?
You're listening to me way too much altogether. Way too much. You need to get a life.
There was
the maximum temperatures. Yeah, we're looking at between 28 and 22 degrees Celsius, so that's going to be a bit tough on the drivers now, you'd have to say, you know what I mean? Because it's a good bit warmer inside that cockpit. Personally, I wouldn't like to be in it, because there's a good few turns on this one. A couple of high-speed turns and things like that, and it's kind of like if you're going through, I think it's turn 15. Yeah, turn 15 is very kind of tough on the driver's neck. So is turn 10 and 11, because you're turning a bit and then you're turning again and you're still at speed. I mean, the G-forces these guys pull off it, I tell you, astronauts have nothing on them, really. It's absolutely unbelievable. What sort of tires are they going? I have to show you this. I don't know if you can see it or not. Can you see that picture about there?
Yeah, I can, yeah.
Isn't that a beautiful tire?
It is.
Isn't that a beautiful tire? That's what happened
to the grip
races. Actually, to be honest with you, what's happening there is the lads are going back to the grid after the race. They're picking up the rubber to make sure the tires, to make sure the car has enough weight and enough rubber still on it. That's what they're at. Now, we're no spanner in the works this week with tires. We've got
Aw.
C3 hard, C4 medium, C5 soft. I know you wanted something. I know you did. I do. I know you did. Can see it in your face.
Next day, yeah.
Well, yeah. Degradation on this track is heat. Yeah. Degradation on this track is heat based. It's all about heat. It's all about how hot you can be, you know. And sure, yourself, we'll be all right anyhow. We'll have our margaritas, we'll be fine. We'll be okay, you know.
In the VIP section.
Track. Well, if David Coulthard is buying us some martinis or something, I'm taking them. I don't know about you.
The good old David. Yeah. I always said he was a nice guy.
He puts the old hand in the pocket. It's pretty rare now. You see the old moths flying out. You know, he does it. He does it anyway. There is great traction on this circuit, so I'm expecting Oscar Piastri to go off like a bat out of hell. He loves traction. That's the thing. If he's got bad traction, Lando Norris is going to go past him. This is a good traction track. So I'm expecting Oscar Piastri to just go bye-bye and talk to you later. You know, he's not going to win the World Championship, but, you know, bye-bye, talk to you later. Go out in a blaze of glory. Hopefully he gets second place. I can't see it happen. Asphalt grip, and asphalt abrasion are about midway. So, I mean, you know, it's one of those things. But the track does evolve a lot. Exactly the same as Qatar, actually, funny enough, both hot countries. Obviously, because the tyres, they're hot. You know yourself, they're laying down a lot of rubber as they're going around. Tyre stress isn't amazing on this. About midway, you know, downforce, lateral force is about midway. There is a lot of force with braking, though. Braking can be quite hard on the guys. That's just the grip. You know, it's like everything else. It's just the grip more so than anything else. So I think we're going to be in for a good race. And to be honest with you, yeah, I'd say Oscar Piastri is going to disappear off into the distance, maybe, but I definitely think he's going to have Max Verstappen on his back axle. And Max might even find a way around him, because let's face it, Piastri was the fastest in Qatar. Max Verstappen was the one that won the race. You know, Max doesn't have to be the fastest man on the track to win a race. It's just the type of person he is. You know what I mean? He just gets in that car, he's gone. You know what I mean? Just gone. Goodbye, I'm Max Verstappen. See you later. And if he can win, he will do his level best to win. It would be, you have to admit, it would be highly entertaining if he became world champion, wouldn't it?
And it means very displeased Lewis Hamilton. But there you go. There's 150. There's 1 minute 50 left.
1 minute 50 left. Well, okay, silly season. 2026, Alpine have confirmed their launch date for their new car. We're not even on the last race, and Alpine are doing that. Not only are Alpine doing it, Aston Martin are confirming their dates as well. Actually, what dates have they got confirmed here? That's a good question. I don't know. So we're already looking at next year's car. Isn't that crazy? I mean, we're not finished yet. They're already putting up, I'm going to put up a date for this, and I'm going to put up a date for that. It's crazy. It is. It's absolutely mental. I don't get it. But so rest assured.
To finish off the race then, pole position and the top 10.
Oh, pole position might go to Piastri. I think it will, and I think Max will be third. I put Lando in second, and he's not going to stay there. And I'm going to put the spanner in the works, that is George Russell, in fourth. Fifth, I think Kimi Antonelli's on a good run. 10 out of 10, Kimi. You know, I think he's on a good run. I'm hoping to God Lando Norris gets up a bit further than 10th. 9th, the last race, and 10th, or 9th 2 races ago, and 10th in Qatar. It's not great for him. So that's what I'm expecting. Winning the race, I think it'll be Piastri, Verstappen, maybe Russell, and then Norris. I would like to see, just out of sheer beeswax, Verstappen, Piastri, Russell, and Norris, but we won't go there. We won't go there.
So listen, thanks very much, Mike, for taking the time out to do Last Word in Formula One, and we look forward to talking to you next week.
Not at all. Great fun.
So, and that was myself and Michael O'Grady talking about all things Formula One.